This episode of The Must comes from the northwest corner of Spain and the province of Galicia, which is a mix of verdant green hillsides, vineyards, and amazing coastline. But what the region's most well known for is the queen of Spanish grapes, Albarino, and the stunning, crisp, mineral white wines that are produced in the Rías Baixas. Now, a lot of the trellising in the region is similar to what we would see in New Zealand, but because of the climate and the fact that it is very wet and quite cool and damp, most trellising is of a tie type, like these tea trellises that you see in front of us. And this allows for airflow and wind and breeze to help keep the disease down in the vineyards when the conditions are less than ideal. Some vineyards have a combination of normal and high trellising. Some areas that are more exposed to the breeze might have more normal terracing, and areas in the valleys that the air can sort of sit in a little bit more will often have more of the high trellis. And in addition, a lot of the vineyards are terraced, and this kind of high trellis allows for good airflow in the terraced areas as well. Soil types are fairly consistent over the whole region. Soils tend to be granite and alluvial subsoils, with them being a little more free draining nearer the coast, and a mix of silty sandy loam and some stones. Redbridge sources wine from two of the sub-regions of Rías Baixas, and the first of these is from the O Rosal region between the Minho and T rivers, right on the southern border with Portugal. And this is Bodegas Fiaboa, which is owned by the family Massavu, who are one of the wealthiest families in Spain. The vineyard, which you see here, is 54 hectares and consists of rolling hillsides and some flatter valley areas near the river. This is the winemaker. Her name is Isabel Salgado, and one of the lesser known facts around Galician winemaking is that it actually has the highest proportion of female winemakers of any wine region in Spain. Because of the slightly more inland nature of the O Rosal sub-region, the wines from the area tend to be defined by more fuller flavours and a little more creaminess than maybe the wines from the coast. Another notable feature of the Galician landscape are the number of orero or cabazas, these elevated stone storehouses which were used for the storing of corn and grain and are elevated to keep predators out, and they are very prevalent across the entire region. Our second producer is located right on the coast in the northern Valdesanes region near the town of Cambados, and that is Lagar de Costa. Costa family have been farming in the region for over 100 years, and their property is right on the water. The soils are quite free draining, which is important because this is the coolest and wettest of the various sub-regions of Rías Baixas. In addition to grapes, the other main industry in Galicia is seafood, and most of the coastline is dotted with mussel platforms such as you see here, fishing vessels, and it also dominates the local cuisine. The mussels are similar to those that we get in New Zealand, a little bit more easily accessible in that you can see them growing on the ropes here, and you merely have to lift up a rope to get yourself a good amount of mussels, and as you can see here, you can cook them up pretty much in close proximity to where you pulled them out of the water. Pulpo or octopus is another of the most common dishes in the region. Very first time I came to Galicia, I visited the winery, one of the wineries I was getting wine from, and then went and had lunch at a restaurant they recommended. Arrived at the restaurant, sat down, they brought me a glass of wine, and then I sat there waiting for a menu. And eventually the waitress came up and said, "Sir, come with me," which I did, and she led me to the counter, and there in front of me was this tank full of fish, and that was the menu. You selected which fish you wanted, went back to your table, and 30 minutes later, Spanish fish and chips. That brings us to the end of our short segment on Galicia and its amazing Albarino. And if you want to buy Albarino or any of our wines, you can do so at redbridgeonline.co.nz.